Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio. Our next guest is a somewhat regular on the show. You come on about once a year at OIC time to give us an update on everyone's favorite options platform. Of course, we're talking about Microhedge, and our guest is Peter Hauser. He is the president of SunGard Microhedge. Peter, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. It's time for our annual checkup on all things Microhedge these days, and so this is why we like OIC, because we get to talk to such a good cross section of people all in one place.
It's really true. It is. It's nice. It's a nice time to catch up with a lot of different people.
Now, I know it's kind of hard for you to believe, but I'm sure there are a few new listeners out there who do not know what Microhedge is, don't know the storied history behind it. So why don't you give those newcomers a brief intro on what it is Microhedge is and kind of some of the background to the product?
Well, for literally 21, maybe 22 years now, Microhedge has been providing risk analytics for options traders. So we provide pre-trade risk analytics and then post-trade risk management. So people can enter their trades into the application. We've got direct feeds to the various clearing firms and prime brokers so that as they trade, the trades flow directly into Microhedge and they can manage the risk. We also do market making or auto quoting on the floor of the CBOE as well as the P-Coast. And we've recently come out with a new risk management product that I'd love to get into at some point during our conversation, but it's more portfolio or firm-wide risk that we're doing there too.
You and I have talked about this before, but judging by the volume of emails and requests we see on a regular basis about trading and technology and platforms and software, Microhedge is still far and away the thought leader in that space. People want to know what's going on with it, what's new, what's being updated. I should just forward the email to you because you could save me a lot of time. What's new with Microhedge? And so we want to get into all the new updates you've had since the last time we talked. It has been a year. But first off, I think you mentioned they're doing some changes to the Microhedge platforms. Let's get into that a little bit and maybe what they're tweaking and changing over there at SunGard.
Well, a couple of things really. The big news at SunGard these days, in a word, is Valdi. Valdi is our new suite of products where we've taken the SunGard best of breed products, meaning our OMS, the EMS, Microhedge for options analytics. And then SunGard also owns a broker-dealer and provides liquidity services so that we offer sponsored access as well as execution and an ATS, which people may not be familiar with that, but we do a lot of business via the ATS as well. So we're taking that whole suite of products and branding it under the name Valdi, as well as integrating them technically so that it's a single platform. So as an institution uses maybe the OMS to trade equities, they can now add options execution, they can add options analytics to that by just requesting the information, and we can then it's basically flip a switch and turn it on for them. So it's very easy access to additional modules that we have to offer. And it's the name Valdi somewhat reflects that because it sort of takes the noise out of trading. Now we have it integrated technologically as well as under a single brand, and in my mind, it's sort of it evokes Vivaldi and the fact that you've got a bunch of different instruments, and playing together they make beautiful instruments or beautiful music.
So is the old Microhedge, that storied name brand, is that going away? Is that being replaced completely by Valdi?
It will. It looks like it will eventually go away, and we will become Valdi. And in doing that, again, trying to take the noise out of options trading. But our options analytics products will still exist as standalone products. So you'll still have Microhedge in its current form, in that we still have our front-end trader application that's giving people, again, their risk analytics and their pre-trade analytics and the risk management. But it also plugs into the entire Valdi system so that if people need additional modules, meaning, say, an EMS, which is probably more applicable towards an options trader. If they need the execution, if they need access to our smart order router or brokerage services, they can get that via Valdi too, and the name Valdi reflects that.
So yeah, that's interesting what you're mentioning about the Valdi suite taking over the Microhedge, because from what we've seen, when it comes to well-known brands in the options analytics / trading platform space, they don't come much more well-known than Microhedge, and I'm surprised to see a firm like SunGard would kind of subsume a good brand like that into a kind of an unknown quantity.
Well, from the SunGard side of the market, here's a company that owns a lot of different products, and there can be a lot of confusion around the various products that SunGard owns. And it really, in renaming it Valdi, it does take a lot of that noise out of the marketplace, and that it's now SunGard Valdi, and Valdi offers options analytics as well as execution and an OMS and brokerage and whatnot, and an ATS. So it's more of a packaged offering now instead of entirely separate companies and offerings. Now it's a single offering, and the name Valdi reflects that.
Branding concerns aside, I'm sure a lot of our users want to know specifically, since the last year that you were on, every year you have new features, new upgrades. What specifically have you been working on? What kind of tweaks, what improvements can they expect right now or coming down the pike very soon in the Microhedge platform?
I can't remember if this, and it may have been right around when we were talking, we added a new model in the Lyson Reimer model, which it comes to a theoretical value much faster, which is good news in the increased market data volumes we're dealing with. We've added 2 interest rates, so you can have your stock interest rate and your option interest rate. We've done a break report as well, which I think a lot of people have been interested in, because when they get their opening position file from the clearing firm, now they can run the break report and see, I knew my positions at the close of trading yesterday. Here's my opening position file coming from the clearing firm. What are the differences there? We also, the whole option symbology initiative certainly consumed a lot of our time.
I would imagine, yes. I think a lot of people were consumed with that this past year.
It really did. Unfortunately, the second half of 2009 was consumed by the options initiative, the option symbology initiative. But the good news is, and we've spent a lot of time in doing that, also making our product more efficient. One of the things that came out of that was that you've got bigger symbols and you're dealing with bigger, larger amounts of data. And we took 2 months and stepped back and said, okay, this is going to impact the performance of Microhedge. We need to recalibrate a lot of this code to make it more efficient and be able to handle the amount of data much better. And that's one thing that came out of it, that we didn't start out, or we didn't head out intentionally to do that, but it fell out of that, and the products become much more efficient because of that. We also, on the back end, our database, we used to work with a Btrieve database, which was fast, but there were issues with that. And now we've switched over to a Microsoft SQL database on the back end, and we can offer people an API to that so they can pull information out of the database.
It seems like I've heard a lot of people these days saying that the option symbolic initiative had a lot of unintended consequences, both good and bad. In your case, you had both. You had improved efficiency, but you also had a lot of unintentional hiccups along the way.
It did. It was, and I think that's probably a good description. I guess I can admit that at the risk of airing my dirty laundry, that we did have problems.
This show is all about dirty laundry, PJ. That's why we're here.
We did have issues in the beginning, but it really, it forced us to take a close look at things and make it much more efficient and much more efficient in the way we handle the market data. And I think it'll help us in the years going forward, particularly now that you've got more exchanges coming on and things like that. It's just this ever increasing amount of market data that's coming at the application.
I know we talked last year about the thin client version, something that's scaled down towards or aimed more at that kind of high-end retail. we're seeing so much of that now with firms and products like Microhedge that would be considered traditionally institutional based, and now saying, wow, there is a lot of room to expand and grow in this high-end retail. And maybe they're not going to pay $10,000 for a full suite, but they'll pay in the hundreds, and in the volume they can make up certainly what you can get from the finite amount of users who will be paying for that full product suite. So I know that's been a plan for a while. Curious if you can give us an update on how that's progressing. Has that kind of been put to the side now with some of these other initiatives, or how is that looking?
Here, you're right. I have to admit to that as well, too, because last year I was saying it was on our roadmap, and again, it was really, I think maybe we underestimated the work necessary for the OSI, but we built, and I think I went over this last year, we built back-end servers.
Yeah, as you said, you have all the back-end pretty much ready to go.
And the front end of that was a portfolio risk management tool we call ERM, for Enterprise Risk Manager. And again, we've been successful with that with proprietary trading firms who've got large positions, and even prime brokers and introducing brokers who have got, say, hundreds of accounts, and they need to manage the risk on those accounts and make sure that no one's, their positions aren't getting out of line. And now that we've got that up and running in the marketplace and we've been successful with that, we're now stepping back, and it's actually on our roadmap that by December of 2010 we expect to launch what our internal code name for it is Dynamo, and it won't be called Dynamo, but that's what we're calling it internally. So I can tell you, Mark, we even have an internal code name for it.
So it is a real thing now. I know, because last year it was still kind of ethereal, and you were talking about maybe doing it. So our listeners who are listening right now, who are looking forward to that, can say, okay, it exists. It may come out actually this year. That at least would save me a lot of email time, I think.
Yeah, my product manager will probably slap me around when I get back to the office for announcing this on Option Insider Radio. But
exclusive. You heard it here first.
Yeah. I spent literally Monday, Tuesday in New York this week, Chicago on Wednesday, and now I'm here in Phoenix Thursday, Friday. But in New York, I'm whining. In New York, Monday, Tuesday, we went around to clients. We saw 3 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday, and really brought this up and said, look, we're putting together a light .NET front end. What we're trying to do is take out what we feel are the best features of Microhedge, traditional Microhedge, and then and that's a difficult process, and that's why we were visiting these clients to say, all right, what do you really use? There are 250 plus columns in Microhedge. Well, of those columns, how many do people actually use? I would guess maybe 50. So, what do you really use? What do you see in there? For instance, we do auto quoting, and auto quoting is built into the Microhedge product. Well, in this light.NET front end, we're not going to do auto quoting. It won't exist in there. Yeah. Again, we hope to at some point, because we think that the servers on the back end are really the way to do it. Since they're calculating theoretical values in real time, we can do that easily. But we are in the process. We've got our specs laid out, so we're going out to people and saying, here are the specs. This is what we think it's going to look like. Does this make sense to you? Is this something that frankly, that you would buy? And if not, what is it missing? What does it need? Things like that.
That's kind of something we're seeing a lot just in the different firms we work with on the Options Insider. I mean, people come to us all the time and say, what's the most interesting, most dynamic aspect of the options market that we can target? There certainly is no explosion right now in prop traders or buy-side options traders, but there is a ridiculous explosion in the high-end retail. So if you're looking to target the most dynamic section of the market, that definitely seems to be where the action is these days. And I imagine a thin client, lower price point type of Microhedge product, I think would get a lot of traction with those users.
We're also excited because we think we can do things like DDE that people always used Microhedge to link to their spreadsheets, because there's a lot of things people want to do in their own Excel spreadsheet. And maybe not DDE per se, the newer Microsoft version, which I think is called RTD, but create some kind of a server. So here's your thin client, but then you can also access a DDE server separately, sort of as a separate channel. So you can still do your own calculations, manipulations within an Excel spreadsheet to give you your sort of proprietary calculations, because we do find that a lot of these high-end retail traders have got a lot of their own ideas, and they want to do, play in their sandbox is what we call it here. Go play in your sandbox and come up with your own ideas. I don't, I mean that in the best of way. I'm not insult. I don't mean to insult anyone.
No, that's definitely what they like. I mean, they're self-directed. They want to, come up with their own strategies. They don't want to be led by the nose, and so they want there enough room to hang themselves. And that's what you guys can give them. That's perfect. I know last year we talked a little bit too about you guys had some plans to increase your white labeling. Is that still a focus of yours, or?
We have, and with the ERM front end, again, that portfolio risk management tool, again, we've been able to go into the prime brokers and introducing brokers because we've seen the large bulge bracket firms sort of push out some of the smaller clients that they don't feel they're making enough money on, things like that, and we're seeing growth in that sort of mid-tier or lower-tier firms, and they need this risk management product because they have firms that are not just trading equities long short. Now they're going into other asset classes like options. So they need the portfolio management tool, but then in addition to that, now they need technology to give to their clients. So that's and yes, so we are still pursuing that. As here we can provide the portfolio management tool. We can also give you a white labeled technology app that you can provide to your clients.
Well, Peter, that's about all I have for you today, unless there's something that you would like to add.
No, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. But Mark, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm glad we can do it. We had our little yearly confab that we do. We'll have to do it more often next time. Maybe biannual or something along those lines. We can get more of the updates. And I definitely want to hear more about how Chicago. Definitely want to hear more about how the Valdi when that rolls out and how that implementation is going. I'm sure a lot of our users will be curious about that as well. Thanks for coming on the show. We're glad to have you on again. We'll have to bring you back on down the road again.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Options Insider Radio. Be sure to visit www.theoptionsinsider.com for more episodes of this program, as well as breaking news from the options market, the latest articles and analysis from options experts, a wide variety of options education, and of course our discussion center where you can share your questions, comments, and insights with your fellow Options Insider users. While you're there, be sure to register for our monthly email newsletter, as well as our free email alert system. Our email alert system makes it even easier to stay up to date on the latest content from theoptionsinsider.com. Thanks again for listening. My name is Mark Longo, and I'll see you next time on Options Insider Radio.
Options Insider Radio was created by Mark Longo and produced by Gene Crotty. Options Insider Radio is a production of the Options Insider Incorporated, all rights reserved.